Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We know that you've all worked diligently and tirelessly in 2020 to rise to the challenges that the COVID-19 pandemic presented for our nation's education agencies. We also know that much of that work will continue this year as education agencies continually pivot and adjust plans in response to local, state, and national public health requirements. So again, a sincere thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today and for your continued dedication to your school communities. Before we get started, we do want to share the following tips about interacting with this event. In the web links pod on your screen are some relevant web pages. You can select the name of the web page you'd like to see and then click the Browse To button. And we do encourage you to explore each of these pages, and we invite you to share them with others too. The Q&A pod is the mode that you can use to communicate directly with us, your webinar presenters. So if you experience any technical difficulties during the event, you may use the Q&A pod to let us know. As a reminder, there is no dial-in for this webinar. Audio is available via the link provided. So if you have any any difficulties hearing the audio stream, please turn up your computer speaker or send an email to the REMS-TA Center, info@remstacenter.org. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, but we encourage you to send us questions throughout the event. Again, that Q&A pod is there for you to send a message to the facilitator. And after the live event, you can also send us questions via our help desk. And again, our email is info@remstacenter.org. And this webinar is being recorded and will be made available in archived form on our site within a week following the live event. And we'll also be hosting a live Twitter chat on this topic directly following today's webinar, and we really hope that you join us there to continue the discussion. I am so happy to be joined by my colleague, Bronwyn Roberts, Strategic Director of the REMS-TA Center, as well as Madeline Sullivan, Management Analyst with the Office of Safe and Supportive Schools at the U.S. Department of Education. I'm going to turn things to Madeline now for a greeting. Madeline?
Thank you, Janelle, and thank you to everyone who's joining us today. On behalf of the department and all of my colleagues, it's with gratitude that we're here to serve you, and we encourage you to stay in touch if ever you think we can be of any support. Bronwyn?
Thank you, Madeline, and thank you, Janelle. We are so happy to be with you today, and we look forward to discussing this important topic.
Thank you both. So why are we here today? We want to take some time to talk about the importance of conducting exercises and also looking at how you can work to enhance and modify them in response to the pandemic. So first, we're going to dive into why it's important to exercise not only at the school level, but also in collaboration with all of your community partners. Then we'll look at some of the current challenges with conducting exercises and drills. And then we'll dive deeper into some of the recommendations that you can consider as you look to modify your exercises and the variety of exercises across that continuum. And then we'll share some resources to support your work. So before we get started, we do want to get a sense of whether or not you're familiar with the REMS-TA Center, whether you have attended a live training, a virtual training. So we're going to conduct a poll right now. And if you could just share some details about how you have been familiar with the REMS-TA Center and whether we are new to you. And again, you could have met us at a live event, requested technical assistance, or any other. So it looks so far like we are new to more than half of the participants joining us today, which is great. We're always grateful and feel so lucky to be introduced to new practitioners and leaders and stakeholders in the field. And please know that we are always here to support you. Thank you, Kayla. We can close this poll. And also, please remember that all of the services that we provide here at the REMS-TA Center are free. And our staff are available via email or phone to respond to your direct requests for technical assistance on a variety of topics. And that can be anything from questions about registering for a webinar or even scheduling a virtual training. It could also be about any topical inquiries about new issues in emergency management, school safety, security, and emergency preparedness. Just remember that we are always happy to help you and to serve your needs in any way that we can. And again, you see our Twitter profile there. Please follow us and join us for the Twitter chat that we'll be hosting directly following this event. We do want to learn a little bit more about you at this time as well. We're hoping to get a sense of the role you play in your agency, as well as whether or not you support schools in your locality or state with planning for and or conducting exercises. And if you do, if you could describe your role in that area. And I see that we have some responses coming in, and so far we have Director of Safety, planners, SROs, principals, tactical assistance team members, administrative coordinators. Let's see, we've got a lot of answers coming in. Chief of Safety and Security, Health and Safety Coordinator. And it looks like we have staff supporting a variety of roles, including supporting training, working with the Safe Schools Unit, serving as a consultant. I see we also have police, the elementary dean of students, crisis management. It's truly awesome to see the wide variety. And we have planners, health and safety coordinators, safety and emergency ops staff, police supervisors. And that really makes us happy because it's really, exercising is truly about the opportunity to practice the plan. Kayla, we can go ahead and close the poll, and thank you so much to everyone for participating in that poll. We, again, thinking about all of the roles that we just saw and that I called off and that you heard, and thinking about the purpose of exercising your plan, it's really important to involve any and all key stakeholders who are going to play a role in not only practicing the plan, but also carrying out those prevention, protection, mitigation, recovery, and response actions. And so with that, I am going to transition to my colleague, Madeline Sullivan, who's going to help us think more about why this is a shared responsibility. Madeline?
Thank you, Janelle. School safety is a shared responsibility. Schools and their community partners all have a role in protecting the school community. And since school preparedness and community preparedness are directly linked, it's very important for them to collaborate. A large part of preparedness is exercising plans. Exercises benefit everyone. They offer the whole school community a chance to practice and increase their readiness and preparedness. The good news is we know we don't have to spend a lot of time emphasizing the value of exercises to you. Our research shows that you understand this fact. In 2019, the REMCA Center reviewed school safety mandates regarding exercises put forth by all of the states and territories. We found 38 states require fire drills, while another 18 states focus on the function and require evacuation drills. 21 states require lockdown drills, and 6 more require, again, that functional drill, shelter in place. 21 states require severe weather drills, 17 states require general practice, or what they call safety drills, and many, if not all of these states require a combination of these exercises. So, why exercise the school EOP in collaboration with community partners? From planning the exercise to participating in one, exercise strengthen effective agency relationships. More, they help to clarify roles and responsibilities among the broad set of partners as it relates to before, during, and after possible emergencies. While offering an opportunity to practice, exercises also test and validate plans, as well as the policies, procedures, and courses of action they put forth. Just like in the classroom, it's important to provide students with opportunities for both guided and unguided practice prior to assessment, or otherwise known as testing. So exercises help the team assess their shared capabilities, including resources, which then in turn help to identify continued needs and possible solutions. Similarly, as results of assessments in the classroom can help inform educators about the suitability of curriculum and instructional methodology, whether or not there's gaps in the content, help identify more effective delivery, or even a set of student skills and knowledge that can be honed to help increase student achievement. Emergency managers use this same process to help ensure continual improvement of the EOP and its related training. Because schools and their partners are both required to conduct exercises, we highly recommend considering opportunities to collaborate through joint exercises, from workshops and tabletops to full-scale drills, since these offer so many numerous invaluable benefits and further connect and benefit both schools and community preparedness. The National Preparedness System speaks to school safety, security, emergency management, and preparedness continuum, and addresses it through continuous capacity building within the 5 mission areas: prevention, mitigation, protection, response, and recovery. There are common federal frameworks and tools facilitating collaboration, communication, coordination, and integration among schools, school districts, and state education agencies with their partners in planning, exercising, and integrating exercises to increase preparedness. All of these support the National Preparedness System and its implementation by you, no matter your specific expertise or role in school safety or level of government. There's the Guide to Developing High-Quality School Emergency Operations Plans, or EOPs, which puts forth key concepts, principles, and processes developing school EOPs and exercising them using strategies that take into consideration the unique characteristics, the teaching and learning environment, and the everyday people, policies, and programs in schools. All of this is necessary for effective school safety initiatives. The companion guide, The Role of Districts in Developing School EOPs, puts forth additional ways for strengthening safety initiatives for community. Home 30 exercise program, also known as HC, connects concepts principles along the exercise continuum, emphasizes the continual improvement posture, and offers strategies for using exercises to improve EOP. If you're looking at this graphic and it seems familiar, you're correct. More specifically, this is an excerpt from our school guide, and it provides or depicts the recommended 6-step planning process to review, revise, or create high-quality school EOPs. This is derived from the Community Preparedness Guide, and it continues to be consistent with the most latest edition. This process, the 6-step process, it can be used to create, review, and enhance EOPs, as well as the annexes that address a wide variety of hazards and threats that any school, school district, or locality may face, as well as all of the cross-cutting functions such as family reunification that may be needed after a variety of potential emergencies. So if we look closely at step 6, it is all about plan implementation and maintenance. And this is where it connects directly to HC. Step 6 emphasizes that everybody involved in the plan needs to know their roles and their responsibilities before, during, and after an emergency. Key training and exercise components include strengthening your multidisciplinary team, and exercises can do just that. So as we include multiple persons from within the education community and from the broader community in planning, we want to do the same for exercises. And it's often very critical that leadership be present, since so much is illuminated during an exercise. Another aspect of step 6 is to teach everyone their roles and responsibilities as it relates to the plan before, during, and after possible emergencies. So staff are going to be assigned specific roles in the plan, and they're going to have positions supporting the incident command system. And all of these require special skills, such as first aid, threat assessment, and provision of just general personnel assistance. But more importantly, it requires awareness and understanding, and that is why training on the plan is equally important. Another consideration is that families need to know their roles and responsibilities in the plan prior to an emergency. They have key role in preparedness prior to an emergency, such as completing their in case of emergency contact cards, but also for their safety and the safety of the whole school community, it's critical that they know what to do when an emergency takes place and exactly where to go to get the specific information regarding the incident. It might be every parent or guardian's first instinct to run to the school, but that's not always the safest approach. And that's another reason why we want to be informing everyone of their roles and responsibilities, training them on it, and then offering opportunities to practice. And then from there, it's always important that the schools and the communities work together to help continuously disseminate this information and make people aware of opportunities. And other ways to reinforce this is by distributing materials and making them available at all different sorts of key locations. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague Bronwyn Roberts from the REMS TA Center. Bronwyn?
Thanks, Malin. So step 6 is also the place to take time to review, revise, and maintain the EOP. This step is just one in that continuous improvement loop in the planning process. So after an exercise, you will want to focus on adding that information gained from exercising the plan to the research collected in step 2, starting that planning cycle over again. So it's really important to remember that planning is a continuous process even after the plan is published. So plans should evolve as the school and planning team learn lessons, get new information and insights, and update their priorities. It's important then to have the planning team ensure that all community partners, like first responders, local emergency management staff, et cetera, have that most current version of the school EOP. So as you're continuously improving it, you have to remember and probably want to build in a reminder to your system to share again after you make those updates. So you need to, of course, make the plan available to additional stakeholders as well and share those appropriate portions. And it's important to think about the multiple ways that you're going to communicate that. You could send it by mail, use different types of media. You may broadcast some parts of the plan on a website. And then you want to think about also making sure that the plan is accessible to all. Some folks might have limited English proficiency or other functional and access needs, and thinking about how to make sure that your plan is accessible to all is really critical. So now we're going to have another poll. I'll turn it to Janelle.
Thanks, Bronwyn. And while we're pulling that poll up, we want to get a sense, as Bronwyn was talking about all of the community partners and thinking about who you need to share the plan with and preparing to exercise and practice the plan. We want to get a sense of the community partners that you collaborate with to practice your school EOP. And I'm reviewing a comment that Gary Segrest sent to us via the webinar Q&A, and I just wanted to share it. He said that an EOP without an exercise is just a good theory, and I thought that it's just such a well-said statement. I wanted to share it as we think about and look at the community partners that you share. When I'm seeing county, law enforcement, Office of Emergency Management, parents, local fire department, EMS, first aid and EMS, the ambulance service, the county EOC, which is so important as well. We also have a reference here in the chat to the importance of understanding the incident command system and the role that schools play in it. And so I see here fire, sheriff, EMS, hospital, ambulance service, homeland security, and thinking about how all of those roles connect and interact and how they all can use that incident command system to work together to have that common command structure and language as they work to respond. So it's great to see the variety of responses that have been shared and looking at these variety of partners from Red Cross to school administrators to local to fire, state, county. We're really seeing local businesses I also saw represented. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing those responses, because we know that it gives us a great feeling knowing that you understand the value of collaboration because you're all here today. Okay, thank you, Kayla, and back to you, Bronwyn.
Thank you. So just thinking about practicing with all those applicable stakeholders, let's think about them in a little bit more detail. So the planning team should think about these populations, for example, and how they may need to be involved or represented in your exercise activities. So for example, let's think about students. They may need to learn how to respond to specific emergencies or how to report a concern about another student. Educators and staff, for example, need to know about their role with an incident command system, and I did see a comment also in our Q&A about that, how critical that is. Parents and caregivers need to know what to do in the event of a lockdown or an off-site evacuation, for example. First responders, it's really critical they know the layout of buildings, entry points, where hazardous materials are stored, for example. And then you have these other partners. For example, how to report a student of concern if you're maybe a community organization or an after-school program. So it's really important to think through all of those stakeholder groups and what it's important for them to know and to learn through an exercise. Also, of course, we need to remember that our plans need to provide for that whole school community, including those who have disabilities or access and functional needs. For example, plans must provide for students, staff, and families whose primary language is not English. And so thinking again, just make sure to include members from those groups throughout the exercise to help understand what their needs are and vice versa. Also, when we're thinking about what types of training each stakeholder group needs, we can think about also how perishable that knowledge is. Will that information change frequently, or will it be something that stays the same and just needs periodic practicing? It's also a good idea to think about the audience. Are we looking at practicing the plan with a group whose main focus is something very different on a day-to-day basis, so that we may need to train more explicitly and frequently? Or is it a group whose functions incorporate the skills in question to some extent? Consider, is it a group with typical adult level retention and little turnover, or is it a group that needs more help remembering or that changes members a lot? And one example of this is family reunification. So although many family members have typical adult level memory skills, this group does change every year. So they benefit from step-by-step training and some take-home materials more than once a year. So next, let's take a moment to look at different exercise types. Exercises should be designed with a continuum in mind and with a goal of conducting them progressively over time. We have discussion-based exercises, which can include seminars, workshops, tabletop exercises, and games. And these types of exercises can be used to familiarize players with or to develop new plans, policies, agreements, and procedures. Discussion-based exercises focus on strategic, policy-oriented issues. And facilitators and presenters usually lead the discussion, keeping participants on track towards meeting exercise objectives. Then we have operations-based exercises, and these include things like drills, simulations, functional exercises, and full-scale exercises. These may be used to help validate your plans, policies, agreements, and procedures. They can help better clarify roles and responsibilities, and they may help to identify where some of those resource gaps are. These operations-based exercises are characterized by actual reactions to an exercise scenario, such as initiating communications or mobilizing personnel and resources. And they provide most participants an opportunity to actually practice a portion and other participants a chance to observe the exercise to help identify opportunities to strengthen the planning or the training. So let's do another poll.
Thanks, Bronwyn. And it's great to see everyone sharing via the chat. And we want to know now also, what type of exercises do you use to practice your school or school district EOP? As Bronwyn just described, we have tabletop exercises, drills, functional exercises, full-scale exercises, workshops and seminars. There's also simulations and games. So it looks like right now most have responded that drills are commonly practiced, and tabletops also seem to be another commonly practiced exercise type, as well as functional and full scale. And that's awesome. And I see that someone shared as well that they involve their fire department when they are planning for students who have physical and access issues and might need additional assistance to egress the building, especially if the student is too large for most evacuation equipment or too large for adults to manage. And so I just wanted to share that as something for others who might be trying to figure out how to manage similar challenges as well to hear. So thank you so much, Kayla. We can close that poll, and thank you to all of our webinar participants for sharing in the poll. Back
So
to you,
exercises of all kinds. I'm sorry, thank you. Exercises of all kinds, for example, walkthroughs, tabletops, drills, full-scale drills, workshops, and seminars, play a key role in enhancing school safety planning because they provide an opportunity for the whole school community to consider, practice, and refine school and school district emergency operations plans and the procedures that they put forth. Exercises also help education agencies illustrate and practice in a scenario-based setting how team roles and responsibilities, as well as the required emergency management functions such as lockdown, evacuation, reunification, will be carried out in the event of an actual emergency. In many states, legislation requires that state and local education agencies collaborate with partners to conduct exercises at specific points within the school year and to involve students, faculty, and staff in those activities. Madeline was mentioning some of those earlier. And so over time, exercises should yield observable improvements in preparedness for future exercises and real-world events. They can also help to inform planning, budget, training, policy, and programming. So the ultimate goal for an education agency should be to develop an effective exercise program management that promotes a multi-year approach to engaging district and school leadership, establishing a multi-year exercise program, developing multi-year training and exercise program priorities, maintaining a rolling summary of exercise outcomes, and managing exercise program resources. So let's talk through a little bit more about an example of how this can be achieved through a multi-year training and exercise plan, sometimes known as MITEP. So in the MITEP example that you see on your screen, you can see 5 months laid out there. And this is just for the sake of readability. You wouldn't just do a 5-month plan. One way to create an initial MITEP for multiple years is you could set up whiteboards next to each other, one for each year, and then use different colored sticky notes to represent training exercises to help you map it out. So on the left, you can see that we've listed some of the stakeholders who need the opportunity to attend training and then practice and test their abilities in exercises. For example, you can also see that all the ICS training is listed in January. In this scenario, let's just say it's because the education agency has been able to schedule this training with the local fire department when they plan to provide it. Or perhaps maybe the state is offering those classes in the same month. But it's different for every school depending on training availability. So I just wanted to point that out to make sure that you don't feel like you have to provide training in one topic to all stakeholders at the same time or in any given time frame. You just need to make sure to figure out what works best for your situation. And then you can see along with the training exercises, we've also included a National Hazard Recognition Month. We do recommend that you include other types of events or recognitions in your MITEP to prevent scheduling conflicts or even to better align topics with what's already going on with your students, staff, and community. You may include training or exercises you're observing or participating in with the community partners for the same reasons. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Janelle.
Thanks so much, Bronwyn. So as we know, education agencies across the country operate schools in person, virtually, or using the hybrid model and continue to work to meet their exercise-related requirements. The COVID-19 pandemic does present new challenges that school safety planning partners must consider and plan for in collaboration with leaders, and public health and emergency management partners as well. One such challenge is just how to implement community mitigation strategies like maintaining social distancing guidelines when practicing evacuation. And those mitigation strategies would work to protect the health and well-being of students, faculty, and staff, and the whole school community while conducting exercises. So we always think that it's important for education agencies to really explore how to improve plans around exercises while still working to maintain the integrity and the purpose of an exercise in the first place, which is practicing the plan. So some of the challenges that we've just heard partners sharing include, of course, concerns regarding social distancing, the availability of masks and personal protective equipment, trying to work around hybrid teaching and learning models, being able to access those community partners that we've all seen share and that we've been talking about throughout this webinar and that are going to be key to helping to practice the plan. And as one partner mentioned, the fire department. In many cases, community partners might be overloaded in response to the pandemic. And that might be one such challenge. It's also about understanding really how to adjust plans and requirements and protocols and who to reach out to and thinking about some of those challenges. So we encourage you to think about other challenges that you would list as you go to your planning team and think about, after this webinar, those modifications and adjustments that you might make to your exercise and training program. And at this time, we are going to conduct another poll. We are hoping to get a sense of whether you have experienced any challenges practicing your school or school district EOP during the COVID-19 pandemic, and if so, which types of drills have presented the most challenges for you? And I see that we have responses coming in, and right now it looks like standard drills seem to be the most popular in terms of being presenting a challenge, as well as full-scale exercises, which makes sense, again, because there are some guidelines on the local and state level regarding the convening of people. I also see tabletop exercises, workshops, and seminars, and functional as well. So it looks like there's representation in every category here in terms of you experiencing challenges. And so we are going to talk through today some recommendations that you can think through that might help you in still continuing to exercise your plan even as the pandemic continues and beyond the pandemic as well. Thank you, Kayla. We can close the poll. And we know there really is no one-size-fits-all solution to this challenge or these challenges to ensuring that exercise requirements are met in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we know may require constant pivoting, but there are steps that education agencies can take in collaboration with their partners to continually practice plans. So let's walk through some of them. We know that you're in an uncharted territory as you plan to safely conduct exercises, and we also know that it's important to remember that you can take meaningful and reasonable steps to protect the whole school community while still practicing and being more prepared in the event of a potential real-world emergency. Because while the pandemic is always looming in our minds, we know that our goal is all hazards and all threats planning, and so we still have to think about efforts to practice the plan. And there are a variety of alternative approaches that can be used in the midst of the pandemic to help meet exercise requirements while integrating social distancing measures. And schools can, again, work with those key stakeholders that we see present today during this webinar within the school community to help ensure that they are both aware of these enhanced procedures and requirements and have time to practice their school safety roles and responsibilities as outlined within those school and school district EOPs. So one of the first recommendations that we have is to consult your agency's general counsel. Exercise requirements are often aligned with state legislation and grant program requirements. Therefore, it's really important for school safety planning partners and education agency leaders to work together and to communicate regularly with their general counsel and legal staff to confirm whether legislation and/or grant program requirements exist or have been updated to include specific COVID-19 and related mitigation strategies. This will really help ensure that the agency remains in compliance and continues with those safety protocols throughout the pandemic. These conversations will also help ensure that protocols that are designed and implemented are culturally competent, inclusive, and equitable, and are designed with the needs of the entire school community in mind, including, as we saw shared, those students, staff, faculty, and visitors with access and functional needs. Another important consideration, as we've been emphasizing throughout this event, is to collaborate with your school district, and your community partners. You know, numerous experts and partners, including experts within the school system and partners within the broader community they all serve, should be a part of that collaborative planning process to help ensure effective and safe exercises and drills. For example, facilities managers, school nurses, educators, front office staff all have specialized expertise and insight that can be powerful for helping to ensure safety and compliance. Similarly, state and local and county public health and emergency management agencies, the ones that we see represented here today, as well as the state fire marshal, are key partners when considering supports available to effectively modify exercises. They not only offer resources that are going to align with your state's requirements, but also provide information on how other localities and entities are approaching this issue based on their state or local public health recommendations and or stay-at-home or lockdown orders. In some states, education leaders are requiring individual schools to work directly with the fire marshal or local fire department assigned to the school to, again, help ensure that the agency remains in compliance with local rules. So we do consider you, as you listen to the archive of this webinar, to really think about all of the partners that you need to consider inviting to the table and that you can also consult as you're looking for advice and recommendations regarding what you need to do on a state and local level. The COVID-19 has also, of course, created somewhat of a new normal within our country, and as schools reopen, education leaders are exploring the use of face masks as well as PPE, and some have already been exploring that throughout this school year and last summer, such as protective shields, gloves, and other protective schools in the school setting. Education agencies have been able to adopt and are adopting very varied models around who is required to use masks and PPE and under what circumstances. We all know that in a real emergency, it may be more challenging for students, faculty, and staff to remember or to comply with all requirements, and that really only emphasizes the importance of practicing with them and exercises and drills and implementing the use of masks and PPE if they are required based on your state and local requirements. And in a scenario-based setting, education agency leaders can control the use of masks and PPE to some extent and work to help ensure that state, local, and individual school requirements are implemented while the plan at least is being practiced. For example, school resource officers and other staff might be assigned to monitor the hallways and or support students, faculty, and staff during an evacuation drill to help ensure they know how and when to use masks and PPE in order to fulfill those expectations during the designated drill periods. An additional consideration is staggering and doing smaller scale drills. Some state and local education agencies are considering these alternative approaches to larger scale drills. So we saw that there were some challenges when we looked at the poll to conducting those full-scale exercises. And so what they're doing is they're hosting exercises and drills with one class or a designated maximum number of students, faculty, and staff at a time, of course, thus reducing the mixing of students, faculty, and staff groups. Another approach is scheduling exercises that take place during multiple points in the day, week, and month, and scheduling multiple sessions that allow for increased social distancing and reduced social density. For example, some schools and school districts have recommended and created rotation schedules in which they limit the number of students in hallways and exiting the buildings at the same time. And so those same strategies can be used when thinking about how you can still practice the plan in the school setting. Also, one idea is to consider role-based exercises. Exercises that show that varying roles and responsibilities of key stakeholders can work together to support prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery in the event of an emergency. And through exercises, all key stakeholders can practice and more clearly understand their specific role within the EOP. So this is really the perfect time to host these smaller groups and to find time to hone in and train people and to answer questions that they might have when you're conducting discussion-based or operation-based exercises that allow them to get a better sense of their role and that will allow you to then fill in the gaps while you're conducting those after-action reports. Federal partners have various resources on youth preparedness as well that teachers can access and use even in the classroom. So that allows you to think about not only the role of those faculty and staff who are supporting your school safety planning team and efforts, but also educators and also the students in the classroom. The REMCA Center offers a variety of virtual training tools, including trainings by request, specialized training packages, online courses, and webinars that leaders can use in the professional development setting. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. We really recommend that you use this time to create new training and exercise opportunities that allow the whole school community to not only practice their role during a response, but also participate in the after-action planning that will support EOP revisions and updates. Also important to consider how evacuation meeting point designations will be modified. Evacuation exercises and drills require that students go to a rally point and congregate at some designated spot that is a safe distance away from the surrounding building. And in light of the pandemic, you'll have to now consider how proper social distancing guidelines and protocols can be applied to this scenario, which will require perhaps modifying existing meeting sites and adding new meeting points to help ensure that proper space between individual students and student groups can be accomplished. Furthermore, you might consider how to help ensure that mitigation strategies are applied so that schools can safely manage family reunification, both in an exercise-based scenario and a real emergency. Another important consideration is to create and apply virtual exercise models. Virtual exercises and drills provide a flexible option for education agencies and their school communities, as they can be utilized in both the physical learning setting, the virtual learning setting, and the school at home setting, so honing in on that family preparedness aspect as well. The good thing is that a lot of education agencies are getting used to teaching and learning in the virtual setting as a result of the pandemic. For example, to maintain social distancing requirements in individual schools, it might require students to remain in one classroom during the majority or the entire school day. Leaders may opt to require teachers to walk students through a virtual simulation and then discuss their roles and action steps within the classroom setting as a follow-up. The same strategy could be used in an online learning setting, with follow-up discussions taking place via video learning sessions and/or assignments completed by students. And then it can also be taken a step further by integrating those families and caregivers who are supporting students who are learning at home. Schools that are currently providing virtual learning services can employ these same strategies, which will familiarize students with response protocols at home and at school. And as we talked about earlier, we do recommend that it's a good time to just make exercise a universal part of professional development. And that's one way to consider how you can take time to modify your entire exercise program and integrate school-based exercises into staff meetings and other faculty and staff-based professional development offerings, tabletop exercises, for example. Exercises can also be integrated into other planned professional development dates on the academic calendar. For example, education agencies can use tabletop exercises at staff meetings as an opportunity to walk carefully through a potential pandemic planning-based scenario that and those required roles and responsibilities, and then talking through the expected updates to the EOP based on the exercises, state or local legislation, and/or trends in your locality. Leadership, faculty, and staff can then share that information with students in the classroom or in a virtual auditorium setting, and with other key members of the school community, such as community partners, families, and caregivers. So again, it's thinking about how to integrate this into the whole school community. And I think it's a perfect segue into the final recommendation, which is thinking about how you can find ways to involve families and caregivers in efforts to practice the plan, as well as informing them about those protocol modifications specific to conducting exercises and drills in the physical learning environment. Many of the safety exercises conducted in the school setting can also be shared and practiced in the virtual learning setting, which is particularly important to consider as education agencies work to integrate families and caregivers who plan to utilize those hybrid, remote, or virtual learning environments. For example, if a school is offering that hybrid learning model for families in the community and they decide to participate in the Fall Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill, school safety planning team members can create a virtual opportunity that allows students and their families who are learning with them at home to schedule a designated time during which they all drop cover and hold on as a part of that organized whole school community organized drill. So it's really important to reinforce efforts to practice the plan in that school at home setting, share that additional information with students, families, and caregivers on the importance of creating and also practicing a family emergency management plan and how it will be implemented based on the threats and hazards that that school, family, or community may face. And with that, I'm actually going to transition things back to my colleague, Bronwyn, and we will run through some quick resources, and then we'd love to take some questions before we close out today's event. Bronwyn?
Thanks, Janelle. Yes, we're going to just talk about a couple resources that we have available for you, and give you a chance to think through some questions, and you can start keying them into the Q&A box if you'd like. The first thing I want to share is about our brand new virtual trainings by request series. Many of you may be familiar with our live trainings by request series. We've been doing that for many, many years. And of course, now due to the pandemic, we have transitioned into a virtual format. So these, again, bring forth the same principles that we try to bring to the live ones. They are dedicated for educational entities, both K-12 and higher ed, and they are intended to be essentially professional development and capacity building efforts for your participants. So there's many ways that we've seen them be integrated into professional development calendars, and you can also think about a variety of stakeholder audiences to engage with them, of course. We have a variety of topics, just like we did with our live trainings by request. Some examples are our Developing Emergency Operations Plans K-12 101. This is a 2-hour overview of the recommended planning processes and key considerations for creating, revising, or enhancing school EOPs. So a lot of what we talked about today, but taking a step back and looking at the process overall. We also have a Conducting K-12 Site Assessments with Site Assess, our mobile app training. So you can even integrate 2 of those trainings together, the planning and the Site Assess one. And that it gives you a little bit of an in-depth look at conducting site assessments for your site, and tells you how to download the Site Assess mobile app and how to use that. Of course, you're more than welcome, and we highly encourage you to download that on your own and start using it. Very self-explanatory. We also have trainings on behavioral threat assessments, resilience strategies for educators, which is, of course, on a lot of people's priorities right now, just because self-care is so important during this time. And we have trainings on earthquake preparedness, and also, like I said, the developing emergency operations plans for higher ed as well. So please check out our options on those and submit an application, or just reach out to us for more information if you think that your agency might be interested in hosting one of those. And Janelle's going to share a few more resources with you.
Thanks so much, Bronwyn. And thanks so much, everyone, for sharing all about what you're doing on the state level via the Q&A. We really appreciate it. Bronwyn said we do offer our virtual training by request, but we also have a variety of other training opportunities for our stakeholders in the field, including online courses, specialized training packages, webinars, and an entire topic-specific resources section that offers topics on all hazards and all threats, as well as looking at the variety of emergency management functions and those planning basics and principles that will support you in practicing your plan. And you can access all of those resources via the web links that you see on the side. So we do encourage you to take a look at those and to bookmark them and to share them as well with your colleagues and network. We are also pleased to share details about a new fact sheet that we are releasing soon that's now available on our website on modifying education agency exercises and drills in response to the pandemic. So the great thing is that you got to hear it first from us during this webinar, and you can also download this fact sheet and get this information that we've shared during today's webinar there as well. We also want to share details about a plan generator software that we have created for K-12 education agencies called EOP Assist. It walks you through the 6-step planning process that we described earlier, collecting information along the way. At the end of the process, you will have a customized school EOP that aligns with the school guide's recommendations. And the app must be installed on a server by IT personnel, and all data collected in this app are stored on your server, and the REMTA Center cannot see any of your information. And one of our newest features is the integration of forms to document drills, tabletop exercises, and other exercises that your education agency has conducted, as well as training. This data may be exported into an Excel spreadsheet for offline access, as well as access via a dashboard. And it really provides a nice bird's eye view of the training and exercise activities and may be sorted and filtered according to various criteria such as topic, type, and date range. For example, the training dashboard presents a summary of the number of trainings conducted across your institution, the number of participants trained, and the average overall evaluation score. As well, you'll see individual trainings listed based on the filter criteria that you select. So while the exercises dashboard presents a summary of the number of exercises conducted across your institution, as well as lists individual exercises based on those criteria that you select. Again, so we encourage you to visit our website, to download EOP Assist, and to send us an email if you have any questions about its value and its benefits to your state or local education agency. And we do want to take some time to answer any questions that you might have for us. And I do see that some have submitted questions related to whether or not we will provide a copy of this presentation. And yes, we will share an archive of this webinar via our website within 7 business days. So if you're an old friend, you know where to find that. If you're a new friend, you can visit the trainings tab of our site and you'll find all of our webinars archived there. So we do encourage you to view those at any time. Let's see, do we have any other questions that have come in? What? Okay. I see a question. What is the turnaround time for trainings by request? We will respond to your request within 2 business days, and then once we go through that application process, someone from our team will work with you to get your training schedule based on availability of dates and what works best for you. So if that's something that you're interested in, please send us an email today, info@remtacenter.org, and or visit the trainings tab of our website and fill out that training host application, and we would love to support your state or locality.
It's typically, we ask for a 6-week minimum planning time.
Thank you, Bronwyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I see we have another question about whether the fact sheet is available now. It is, and so you can go to the publications page of our website, which is under the resources tab, and you'll see that fact sheet and others there. I see that there's a question, are there any resources for training IES to school personnel? We do encourage you to check out our emergency exercises package, which is available via the web link. There is some information related to the training around ICS on this topic. And I'd also like to present this question to my colleague, Madeline Sullivan. Madeline, would you like to respond to that? Are there any resources for training ICS to school personnel?
Thank you, Janelle, and excellent question. So the Department of Education collaborated with the Federal Emergency Management Agency on NIMS implementation activities specific to K-12 schools and institutions of higher ed. Even with the NIMS refresh that took place recently, these are still applicable. And so if you go to the REMTA Center website and search NIMS, you'll find a landing page which offers that and a lot of information on the training opportunities. And that will take you to FEMA's Emergency Management Institute, and they're a wonderful team. That's FEMA's training branch. So they have quite a few courses for all the courses on NIMS, the National Incident Management System, and its Incident Command System, ICS, there for you. And in the old days, you might have known that there were noticed that there were specific courses for schools, and now they're just general courses, but you should be pleased. The updates are fantastic, and for many of them, partway through the course, you click your role, and it'll get you the specific information that you're looking for in the context of school. So yes, you can access those trainings if you go to the REMCA Center website, search for NIMS. You'll see there's a few pieces on training, both of which include links that'll take you to FEMA's EMI, that's short for Emergency Management Institute, and you can connect there to look for the independent study courses. And of course, the 2 advanced courses are offered through your state emergency management agency or the identified agency that leads those topics.
Thanks so much, Madeline. I see that we have a few questions related to whether we have any sample plans and or sample exercise observation evaluation forms. And I'm going to let Bronwyn answer part of this, but I just want to encourage everyone to go to the REMCA Center Toolbox, where we have a variety of resources from your state and local partners. And there are a lot of resources there that can support your exercise efforts as well, including sample plans and perhaps evaluation forms, including drill observation checklists. And Bronwyn, over to you to help answer this question.
Thanks. Yeah, the toolbox is all practitioner-created resources, whereas the rest of our site you'll find resources that are created by the REMCA Center or other recommended partners. In terms of whether we have sample plans available, we do, as Janelle mentioned, we do have the plan generator software, so that helps you with the process of creating a plan. But really, that's the thing that we always want to stress, is that a good plan, it comes from the process of creating it. And so we have a huge amount of resources that are dedicated to going over that 6-step planning process and helping to understand what the steps are to take in order to get a high-quality plan. We do have, if you aren't able to set up the plan generator software with an IT department, we do have an offline version of it too. So it's actually like a workbook that you can work through and do some of that work essentially offline. And we do, in fact, have, in terms of samples, we have some sample annexes. So those are really helpful too, I think, because they show you what a little part of the plan could look like if you're using that 6-step planning process. So you can just go to our website and search for sample annexes in the search bar, and those will come up.
And this is Madeline. I just wanted to add, those are great, and you can use the search engine or go to the public resources and publications. But best of all is they all look different. And as we develop those, we intentionally had them look different. It's really important to focus on what Bronwyn mentioned, and that the quality of a plan, or what a plan looks like, is the direct result of that ongoing collaboration, communication, and coordination. And so when you look at the 2 guides, the guide for developing school EOPs and the companion guide, the district guide, they talk about all of these different processes. But while we might present that information in the context of one type of plan or one format of a possible plan, please know that that is just the one that we chose because it was most commonly used. It's not the one that you are to use. And that should really be decided by you and your collaborative team. But most important, you need to take steps to ensure that it communicates clearly everyone's roles and responsibilities, and more importantly, those specific courses of action.
Thank you so much, Madeline, and thank you so much, Bronwyn. And I actually think that's a perfect way. We're right at the hour to end today's webinar. And don't forget, we are on Twitter right now to answer any additional questions that we weren't able to answer during this event. And if you're not on Twitter, please feel free to send any questions that you have to us via email at info@remcacenter.org, and we would love to answer them. So again, we encourage you to join us now on Twitter and to use the chat with the REMS hashtag if you have any questions for us or just like to continue this conversation. We would love to see you there. We really do appreciate you again joining this webinar, and please remember that we are here for you. If you need technical assistance, services, you can feel free to send us an email or to give us a call at any time. Thank you for staying engaged, your thoughtful contributions, and most importantly for what you do to keep staff, students, and families safe every day. Thank you.